Hello, and welcome to this screencast from Easy Peasy Photoshop Tutorials. On this screencast, we want to give a basic overview of color adjustments in Photoshop. So on this screencast, we're just going to show just a few color adjustment tools, because if we look at all the tools that we have, quite a bit to look at in just one tutorial. So what we're going to do is look at a few of the basic ones. Over time, you'll see some other tutorials that will go into each of these in more in depth. So let's start out now. Let's look at levels. And here's the important thing to look at levels. We have a channel here, RGB. And what that means is that if we manipulate the items down below, is that all the channels will be affected at once. If we click on this, you have the options of red, green, or blue, so that we can affect each individual channel that we want. This particular file right here, if we move that over, is an RGB file, and it has 3 channels. And that's the reason why you have these right here in terms of options to play with. So if we look at levels, we'll see here that this is the shadow side, and if we push that in, it darkens it up. Over here to the highlight, if we push that to the middle, it lightens it up. In the middle, here's what they call the gamma setting, and if we go towards the highlights, it darkens it up. If we go towards the shadows, it lightens it up. In output level, here we are lightening up the shadows. From the shadows into the midtones, we're lightening them up. And from the highlights, we go towards the middle and we are darkening them up. So basically you have 5 different settings that you can play with for RGB or red, green, blue. So let's take a look at the green channel really quick, and we can see what it does. We can either go really red, really green. In the midtones, you can do the same in the shadows and in the highlights, and the same thing for the output levels. So with that, with the levels there, you got 5 different adjustments that you can make. Now these are global settings, and as you look at the tool itself, it doesn't have a lot of specificity to it, and we'll get into that on our next tool. So let's cancel out of levels, and we'll go to our next tool, which is curves. Now again, what you'll see here is an RGB channel in which we can lighten and darken. I'll change this to the light, lighten and darken overall. But the thing about the curves is that you can put all sorts of different points on the curve itself, and by manipulating those points you can come up with something that would be very hard to obtain in levels. So here I did, let's move this off to the side a little bit out of frame, but you can see the effects of making it a much more contrasty curve. And you can do the same thing. You can go into the reds, red channel here, the green channel, and so on and so forth. So with curves, you can deal with all the channels at once or individual channels, but now you can put all sorts of different points on the curves, and with this you can have a lot more specificity on how you want to apply that color adjustment. So the next one, let's go to, let's see, hue saturation. This is a fun one. This is one where you see some really funky tools going on here. So what this is right here is called the hue adjustment, And this is like following the color wheel. So if you follow it, isn't that weird? You can also affect the saturation of a piece overall, and light and dark. So there's three main adjustments there. But the interesting thing about the hue saturation tool is now I can go into the different colors. So I can pick here and drag that yellow grass into more of a green blue grass. I can make it even more saturated. Go into the cyans. I can affect the sky like that. So that's a pretty drastic change. Is that something that we'd want to have? Well, look over here in the shadows and you can see those shadows going blue. So that's probably something that we really wouldn't want. Let's go to the next one. And this will be similar, but it's called selective color. And this one you can't do an overall adjustment, but you have all the main colors: yellows, greens, cyans, blues, magentas, whites, neutrals, and blacks. And how this works is that you affect the cyan, magenta, yellow, and black within these colors. So in the cyans, I can affect up in that sky. You can see I'm adding magenta to those cyan blues. There's not a lot of yellow, but if I add yellow, see how it darkens it down. So that's the type of effect you can do here. Again, this is giving you a lot of specificity on your work. So the next one we want to look at really quick is variations. And some of this may be out of frame a little bit. I wanted to show you this really quick. You have shadows, midtones, highlights, and saturation you can play with. Fine and coarse. But what this allows you to do is see a more visual of what's going on. Now, I really don't use variations in my work, but it helps, I think, a lot of people who are beginning to see what's going on. So you can click on more yellow. You can go to the highlights, and you can see over here what it did to that right there. And we can say I want it lighter. And this right here, these items right here are showing clipping. So it's probably not a good thing to do. And so you have your original over here, up here at the top, and the current pick. And you can keep on playing with those. And this will help you, I think, see more of a visual. If you're more of a visual learner, this will help you see what those things will do. So we'll cancel out of that. And one last thing I want to show you. Another pretty good one is color balance. And here again we have shadows, midtones, and highlights, and you can affect, pick midtones, you can affect how through these sliders how the color will react, and so you can play with that. And again, you can see some similarities into some other tools, but again they will help you in seeing how color adjustments work. So that's a basic overview of color adjustments. And what you want to do is bring up a file, make some copies by doing this, and play away. Make different color corrections on different layers and label them as levels, curves, HSV, whatever you want, and see how the different color adjustments work. Well, that's it for now. We'll see you next time, and take it easy.